Today I've been working on negative space paintings and I've been painting them on watercolour paper. So this is just one that I use. It's 185 GSM. This is the lightest weight paper that I use for my acrylics. So I just start out with taking a sheet out of the book that I've already done. And then I start with my background. Now, for my negative space paintings, what I like to do is dampen off my paper. I use a sprayer. And this just helps the paint to glide and smear around really well. And then I get a big old brush. I'm going to use the watercolour brush today, and I get some water. Let's get another water container. There we go. And then I will add good globby amounts of water to my acrylic paint and then just smear it on. Now, there is no right or wrong way to do this. This is just toning the paper, getting some background colour going. So whatever colours that I have, these are the colours that I've just been using on my palette anyway. And I'll just add a little bit more water to these, and then this will be the end of my palette. Doesn't matter if I get a bit of mud going in there. There's no reason to worry about it at all. We just want to get our colours going, get our background going. Make sure that we've got plenty of water on a brush. Most of these colours will be covered over anyway, so it's really not a problem that we're mixing some pretty cruddy looking colours here at the moment. Actually, I don't mind this colour. I must say I often find that some of the muddy colours make really good neutrals for backgrounds and things. But right now I just want to make sure that my background has plenty of darks as well as some brights. Now I'm going to, just for the purpose of this, draw on my paper, which I would normally do. So when you're creating the composition of your painting, you're going to work kind of in thirds. So obviously somewhere around here there'll be something. Whatever that something is, we don't know because we haven't got that far. But there'll be something in those areas, so we should make those areas tonally interesting. Now, I'm going to squeeze out a bit more paint here, just in these colours, so a dark yellow and a rose madder that I'm using. These are Reeves colours that I'm using today. I don't mind like what colours I used, as long as they're not student grade. If they're student grade, you just don't have the pigment quality. A bit more water, because this is just our background. We don't want it to be too tight. Oh, we've come up with some rather lovely looking colour there. Now you'll notice that I'm not too excited about the bottom or the corners or anything. It's because I know what I'm doing next. And this is all going to be painted out, so it won't be a problem. Just a little bit of white here, and there we go. Now, I personally don't like a lot of bumpy things on my canvas. I like texture. I like it to look like it has texture more than I like it to have lumpy bumpy things. So if you don't mind having lumpy bumpies, then please don't get too excited about having them. The other option is to stick your fingers in here and make some really interesting marks. So we can even make it look like we're going to have some leaves around here that we might find and pull out as we go. That certainly looks quite interesting. Now I'm just going to clean my hand off here. Now some of the greens would probably be quite good to mix in here. So if we mix some of these, and look what we've got, suddenly I've already got a whole heap of pretty leaves starting to come up for our flowers. And we all know that I'm going to paint flowers and flowers involve leaves. So if we can get some background leaf action happening, this will be really lovely. Now we need that to dry, so I'm going to get out the hairdryer and help it along. So now that I have finished using the hairdryer, I'm going to actually put in a bit more red. You can see that it's quite dulled off a bit here. And that's fine, but be aware that that will happen. I just want to put in some red because I'm actually going to base my flowers on red flowers. So I like something to resemble red flowers underneath. Now I don't want to get too fussy here because this is not the actual painting. It's just more of the undercoat before we start to build it. And sorry that's shaking just while I wash off my brush. So again, I'm going to hit it with hairdryer just to hurry it along. So now this is all dry to the touch. There's no pieces of paint sticking. Then I'm going to start pulling out the picture that I can see. So using your imagination and having a general plan that there's going to be a vase, I can see just with these strokes here that I think I'm going to have a fairly well-rounded vase just here like that. Now I also know that I want to have light coming from this side, which will leave this side in shadow. And again, working in the principle of thirds or thereabouts, I know that I need my background to come across like this. Now I'm going to have a basic shadow coming out from here. I might just square off this vase just a little bit. And the best thing is, if you don't like what it is that you've just done, when you are using soft pastel, which, sorry if I didn't say, this is just a soft pastel, you can get a damp cloth and just wipe it off. And then put in the marks the way that you want them to be. So that gives me a basic guide. So now we can see what we're doing. However, we've got 5 flowers, uneven numbers are more harmonious to the eye. We've got all of these gorgeous leaves happening in here. So what I'm going to use today are some Posca pens. These are paint pens. So I'm going to use this to work out roughly where some of my leaves are. So not all of them, but some of them. We're going to have this one here is a leaf. Some of these are going to make awesome leaves. I think that one there can be a leaf. Oh, that's a beautiful leaf. Look at that one. So the eye doesn't need to be shown exactly where to look. It just needs a reference and it'll fill in the rest. So when I'm making these leaves, I'm not going all the way around and back in. I'm leaving the ends open. We're going to have an interesting coloured leaf here too, I think. And the eye will fill in the rest and make it appear to come all the way in. So some of these look good, like leaves. I think this one here is going to be quite a busy picture. So I'm using a little bit of creative license here and making it sort of look like I want it to. And we'll come along later with that again. So that gives us an idea of our outside area now. So we're going to make the background colour and block all of that in. So to do that, I'm going to use a very nice neutral kind of colour, something that isn't too dark. We don't want it to be too light either. So I might mix a little bit of black and a little bit of violet as well. So we'll just put this over here. We really don't need too much of these because we want it to be quite a neutral background. And again, we want it to be quite wet. We might even add a little bit of retarder to slow down the paint drying time. So we want to be quite fluid. So I'll make sure my brush is quite wet. Pick up a bit more water. Now traditionally you don't want any more than 30% water added to an acrylic paint or it loses its ability to bind. We want to warm up that black with a little bit of purple. And this will give us a really nice warm grey. Now we are going to need more than that. Not quite sure what I was thinking there. So we'll get more water. Mix this in. And then what I'll do, if you're scraping paint out of your brush, please be really gentle with the bristles. It's not something that I recommend you do. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of retarder. I don't want too much, just a little bit. So a few dots. It does change, sorry about the noise, it does change the structure of the paint a little bit. It becomes a little bit more rubbery, and it definitely has changed, I've noticed, the level of sheen on the paint. So because I'm going to varnish them, that's not going to bother me, but do be aware of that. If you weren't planning on varnishing and you use the extender or retarder, then you know it might change the level of sheen too much for you. All right, this great big brush means I can't be too tight and anal about it, and we're just going to come in and go around everything. Now I know that my third line is here and I will darken off the bottom. So for now, I'm just going to come in here. So if you don't want to use a great big fat brush like this, that's fine. You can use just a nice scrubby-dubby brush like this and get right in. Sometimes this is preferable actually because you can get all of these really nice scrubby-dubby lines. Now, we also want to get a little bit in and around in various places, just to add a bit of light coming through. Doesn't matter if we go over some of the things that we've marked out, that's okay. We can also add more background as we go. So if we find an area that we aren't really happy with and we didn't really want it to look like that, and that's fine. We can just mix another small amount of paint to fill that in, and that'll work a treat. Same as if it's not quite thick enough, if you feel that you can see too much background shining through from your underlayer, that's okay, we can come in and fix that too. There's nothing that you could possibly do to this that couldn't be fixed or changed into something that you might prefer. Okay, so please don't be worried about doing the right thing or, you know, being too precise about anything. And now I'm going to add just a little bit more purple and black here to darken for the bottom. Oop, that's a bit too much. A little bit of purple because we want it to be warm, we don't want it to be a cold grade. There we go, looking lovely. Looking lovely. And then darken it off again a little bit more because we have our shadow. That's a bristle. I don't want a bristle in there, and I can't lift it with that, so palette knife. Okay. Wonderful. And there we go. So a little bit of the paler colour through the front, because that's where the light is coming. We know that the light is coming from this side. We know that the light will come across here on our table or a bench or whatever this might be sitting on. But we need it to be. Right, now the reason that we're going to make it with a retarder is because if you want to put some lines in for some texture, you can just scrub them in. I'm not a fan, but this is an option for you. But around here, oh, I think I might have left it too late, we can just dig in. So let's put another layer here so I can show you what I mean. So we would carve in around these things, and this would give us some extra dimension. Okay, not the end of the world, but that was the purpose in having the retarder in there. Okay, so now we can see at least where it's going. looking nice. Try and keep that line there fairly crisp for the shadow, because obviously a shadow has very solid edges. Now at this point, you can be looking at this and wondering what on earth you could possibly do to make this look like a nice picture, but really it's going to be fabulous. So what we need is to dry this off. Now because of the retarder, it'll take a little minute for it to dry, so I'm just going to pause you while I get the hairdryer out again. Okay, so now that all of this is all dry, I have just used a damp cloth just to take off the leftover bit of soft pastel, and now I'm going to start working and making the picture come through. So I need to make a green, so we'll just use a little bit of blue, a bit of medium yellow. So this is phthalo blue, this is medium yellow. So this will make quite a dull olivey green. And I'm going to come and work out some of my leaves. Now, these might be long leaves, they might be short leaves, they can be whatever you want them to be. What we don't want to do is we don't want to cover up all of our beautiful background. We want some of that depth to shine through. So, mixing the colours a little as we go so that it gives a little bit of tonal difference to some of the leaves, but we will come back over them in a little while and add some extra colours. So we might see about making a bit of green using turquoise, the medium yellow, and a bit of white. That's a very bluey green, and this is where I say that we have some tonal differences. Now, we don't have to stick to the script here. These can be anywhere you want to put them. They can be any kind of leaf, any shape of leaf, anything you like. Whatever it is that makes you happy, it's your painting. This is where you need to just let go. Don't worry about what anyone else is thinking and paint for yourself. This is where you get to have the most fun, because it's not a paint by numbers and we're not painting within the lines. You know, no one can tell us that we're right or wrong about this. This is our painting, like our own painting, and it can be anything that we like, anything at all. Now, while I am adding a little bit of paler colours here, and it looks kind of like I'm highlighting as I'm going, I'm just adding a bit of tonal difference and keeping it moving. So this patch here is looking a little bit empty for me, so I'm going to just, it's quite warm here today, so I'm just going to spritz my paint with a bit of water. That's all it is, just water. And I think I might just add another leaf here, maybe even something around the flower maybe. That could be quite a nice something around the flower. Could just turn out to be nothing, but that's okay. I don't really like that bit that I just did then. I think that was a little bit of overkill, so I'm going to come back with a little bit of my background and just blot that out. And I can fix that up again as I go. It's not anything to get too worried about. But what I am going to do now is just shape in a little bit. So I'll just trade my paint over for the background again. And I want to have just a little bit more background in and around my leaves. Yeah, we didn't know that we were going to do that before because we weren't sure where they were or where they were going, and we certainly don't need to get rid of it all. We don't want it to be a nice, smooth, neat edge. We still want it to be quite jagged, maybe, just rough. As I was saying earlier, I don't really like lumpy bumpies in my picture, so I do tend to smooth anything down that looks like it might have a lump or a bump that I'm not a fan of. It's great, you know, when you're a kid and you're painting away and it just doesn't matter, and then suddenly someone gives you a colouring in book and they say, now stay within the lines, make it look pretty. Don't do that to children. It's not good advice. You know, kids are the most creative little creatures, and then we as adults come along and spoil it all and tell them they should conform and not have all those nice individual thoughts that they had right before we went and ruined them. Oh, but that's just one of my pet peeves. I think that kids should be allowed to be free to express themselves however it is they choose to express themselves, with their painting or their drawing or their modelling clay or Lego, whatever it is. Anyway, I digress. Back to the plan here. I'm going to just mix up a little bit of yellow into this, a little bit of white, and make it a little bit softer. It creates quite like a limey yellow. And now we're going to, not every leaf, just some of them. But dance around. We don't want anything to become too stagnant or too matchy-matchy, but we want that really nice harmonious feeling that you get when you dance around a painting and you bring all of the colours together. So once again, I think that we're going to just have to a little bit of dark in to some of these sort of flower spots, because some of the darks have seemed to vanish a little bit, and I'd like some of it to still be here. Perhaps not quite so much, but that's okay. That's fine. And anything that you want to soften, just stick your fingers in, soften it off. It's certainly not a prettiness contest here. This is an abstract painting. Alright, I'm going to dry this off again with the hairdryer, so just give me a second. So now that this is all dry again, I have got out my Posca pens and I'm going to start to put in some line work, which will give our flowers a bit of shape and give us an idea of where we're going. So we want to just roughly, nothing too precise. Think abstract, try not to go all the way around when I'm outlining. We're just giving the illusion. I come in with the pink, which should be a little bit softer and a little more easy to see, and that will give us another layer of colour and dimension. It's just a matter of working out where you want your petals to be, what shape you want them to be in. And now I'm going to use a cream, not a white. So not a white, I'm using a cream. I'm hoping you can see that on camera. Just because it's a little bit softer than the white. The white is quite stark. Now you want to just give those just a second to dry off, because you don't want to go and put your light colour over the top and make a mess of your pen tip. But this again just helps us to see where our petals are going to be. Okay, and we can start to see now that we've got, just join some of these up. And I don't want anyone to join everything, but you know, some of them just need to have a bit of extra oomph added to them. There we go. And then we're going to start putting in some colours now with our brushes. Now I use a really limited amount of brushes for this. I've got just a little scratchy little round, the big watercolour brush. I've got my flat scratchy and a filament, just a small one. It's just a number 6. And I'm going to make a nice peachy colour. So I'm going to get a bit of rose madder, bit of the warm yellow and some white, and we just mix this until we get the colour that we're looking for. I really like this sort of pinky peach. It's a really pretty colour. Might just add a bit darker first. So we'll go more of a peachy pink rather than a peachy. And we're going to put in some lines here that suggest our petals. So we can see the way our petals grow by the lines that we've already put in. Just like so. Now this beautiful soft peachy colour. You want to create beautiful harmony. So remember when I said to dance your brush around the painting, don't be too stationary, don't just hang about in one spot thinking that that's all that we need. We really want our petals to look like they're petals. So try and keep your strokes going in the direction of the petals. So whatever direction it is that you've drawn them, then that's where we need them to go. And then if you feel that they're just a bit too pale for whatever reason, you can come in and put a bit more of the dark pink back in. Don't be too concerned about your line work. We are going to come back to that as we go around our picture. Try and keep the greens out of your pink where I'm pulling my paint from. I just need to be a bit careful. So now the light's coming from this side, so we need the light to be bouncing around everywhere that it could potentially touch. Starting to look quite pretty. And again, keeping in mind that artwork doesn't have to be pretty all the time. Sometimes it's just about being interesting or fascinating to look at, something that brings an emotion to the viewer. It doesn't always have to be focused on pretty, pretty, pretty. So that's looking good. I'm going to dry it off with a hairdryer yet again. Bear with me. All right, once again, it's dry with the hairdryer. Now I'm going to use my Posca pens again and just give some of these leaves a bit more life again. So remember that this doesn't have to be an exact science here. This isn't about perfectionism. Alright, this gives us some nice action around our leaves. And again, we're going to use the cream and we're going to come in and bring up some of the leaves here as well with the cream. And please remember that it's not about every leaf. And if you go just around the top of them in a horseshoe sort of shape, your eye will automatically fill in and bring it back into the picture. So if you feel that something's a bit too far away or it's just not quite right, don't fear, you can fix anything. All right, now just going to pop over the flowers again to make sure that we've got something that resembles what we were aiming for in the first place. A little bit of gesture here to suggest that there's petals coming down. Right, that's looking all right. Actually, I think that just in here needs just a bit more. And sometimes the lines just help because they're rough. Doesn't necessarily have to follow anything. So we might try just a little bit of the orange, just on parts. Now remember, same rule applies, dancing around the picture so that we create harmony. And we'll go back to the pink. And we're just, again, still just gesturing on where these things are. Okay, that's looking good. I'm happy with that so far, that's looking good. We might add some genuine white. See how there's a difference between the cream and the white? Now we're going to add white dots to the centre of our flowers. It's amazing how quickly that can transform your flower into being something spectacular. Not sure what it is about dots, but your eyes seem to get quite excited when they see them. Okay, I might see about adding just a few gestures of stems and stuff in our leaves. Okay, that's looking quite good. So I'm just going to have a look in the mirror so I can, oh, actually looking through the screen here shows me quite well. Oh yes, quite impressed with that, happy with that. All right, so I might do something now with the vase. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with those. What will we do? I don't think we want to take away any of the dark. No, I do. I need to look at it in the mirror. Just give me half a second. Okay, so I've had a look in the mirror and I think that the only thing that I'm going to do to it is just to give it a little bit of reflection. So I'm going to, they're on the side of blues, I think. Now, very, very pale. You can see how pale that's getting. And then we're just going to suggest some reflection here. Light bounces, so it'll be over here on the other corner. And I think that's going to do. I don't want it to be too precise. You know, this isn't about precision. All right, and the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add little bits of highlight to some of my leaves, and being careful not to wipe out all of the line work that we've just done, but definitely we can enhance some of these areas with just a little bit of highlight here, there and everywhere. Always, always, always moving around the canvas or the picture. Sorry, it's on paper. Okay, pretty happy with that. I actually like just a few touches of this sort of limey green. I think just in parts it could do just to pull it together a bit more. There we are. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it for now. So I might just pause this for a moment and I'll have another look in the mirror and see if there's anything else I want to do to it. If I'm just going to call it a day and then just polish up the edges a little bit. Actually, let's do that now because I know that I'm going to do that. So I'll just trade my palettes again. So the extender in here is awesome because it means that my paint is still wet, still usable. So we're just going to come along here and just sort of tidy it up a little bit. We don't want it to be quite that pale, do we? That's all right. We'll just add a little bit of highlight to it for the white sauce on that side. Again, quite dry brush here. And a little bit of the dark for the shadow, but we need it to be warm, remember, so a bit more of the purple. And oh, still not quite dark enough. There we are. And just tidy up that vase like so. Go, and for good measure, we'll just add a little bit more background up here. I do hope my hand doesn't get in the way too much when I do this, but I'll just have to wing it and see. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just filling in a little, making it just a bit thicker of coating rather than seeing too much of the background coming through. I just wanted to make it a little bit more opaque. But it's definitely not about making it perfect or tidy. It's just about hiding some of the background. So the scratchier the brush, doing this actually gives you a much more natural looking finish. But I like the smoothness that the smooth brush gives for the actual brush strokes. So, you know, you just got to do what works for you. Okay. So some of these areas here are still a little on the darkish side. I just want to lighten them up a little. Okay, I think we've come to the end. I certainly hope that this is something that you've enjoyed watching, and I thoroughly enjoyed painting it. Really enjoying the freedom that painting negative space paintings is giving me at the moment. So I'm going to continue on and paint some more of these. And because they are all basically just studio trials and demos, I'll probably end up having a clearance sale just to move them on. But right now I'm happy with that. I think that it's looking pretty and interesting. And you can see all of the line markings, how things aren't perfect. You know, there's nothing too anal about it. Just slapped it on there and thoroughly enjoyed the process, and that's exactly what it's all about. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching this. If you'd like to see some more of them, please let me know, and I will try and create some more video content for you to see. Have a great afternoon, morning, night, whatever you're up to, and I will chat to you soon. Bye.